If you've been a longtime viewer of this channel, you would know two different things. One thing is I love indie games. I love playing indie games, checking out different indie games, because there's such a cool variety of different genres out there. But then on the flip side, I also am usually a bit disappointed with Nindie Directs or Nindie Spotlights when it comes to Nintendo showcasing these games. I always feel like they focus too much on similar genres, things like 2D platformers and puzzle games. And while I enjoy those, the cool thing about indie games is the great variety, the differences in these games, and the great genres within these games. But holy shit, this latest Nindie Spotlight just completely blew me away. There was such a great variety of games, so many surprises, and so many interesting new games announced that I'm absolutely blown away. You see the title of the video, the Xbox One is now invading the Nintendo Switch with Cuphead. So we're gonna save that to the end because there's a lot to talk about with that. But what else did they showcase at this event? That's what we're gonna talk about in this video. So sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about the latest Nindie Spotlight.
Hey, RGT 85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my god, it's Stevie Richards! Now the way this video is going to work is we're going to spotlight the games that I found the most interesting during this Nindies Direct, and then of course talk about the things that are going to be coming from this Direct, because there's a lot of information to digest with this. Starting things off, I want to talk about My Friend Pedro. This game looks really cool to me. It reminds me a lot of Shadow Complex. It's a 2D side-scrolling game, but it's heavy in gun-based gameplay, and it looks like there's going to be bullet time motion as well. I really like the graphics of it, and like I said, it reminds me a lot of Shadow Complex, which was one of my favorite games on the Xbox 360, and then of course it was re-released as well, Shadow Complex Remastered. Just a fantastic game. It obviously has a different visual style than Shadow Complex, but I think the gameplay reminds me a lot of that game, so I'm really looking forward to checking that out. And then we had a game called The Red Lantern, which kind of reminds me a bit of Firewatch. And if you guys don't know, I'm actually a fan of Firewatch, which is essentially just a walking simulator, but I always thought it was a really cool game when I played it back on the PS4. But The Red Lantern seems like that sort of graphical style, but a different gameplay style. You're basically playing as someone who's a musher, who has Alaskan dogs, and basically just goes across the world trying to compete in a race. But things can happen within this race that will impact your world. They showed like a giant grizzly bear taking out your dogs, your mush dogs that were killing them, and basically there's like 100 different events that can happen as you're going across the Alaskan terrain. I don't know, it just looked really cool. It looked like a very stylized game, and I like the unpredictability aspect of it as well. I think it's a game that's going to be really on my radar. We also had Katana Zero, which is basically sort of a Ninja Gaiden / Messenger style game, but once again does have some small deviances that sort of differentiate it with the slowdown effect that you can do. And I just liked what they showed with this game. You could actually block bullets, which they didn't really talk about, but I noticed it in the gameplay that they were showing for the game, and I just thought it looked really cool. Yeah, it's definitely a 2D platformer in the style of something like the Ninja Gaiden games or the Messenger games, but those are good games, so I'm cool with stylized 2D platformers as long as they sort of bring something different to the table, and I feel like this game brings enough differences to the table to make it sort of stand out. So this game definitely is on my radar. I think it looks pretty cool. We also were introduced to Rad, which was a really interesting game coming to us from Double Fine Studios and being published by Bandai Namco. Now this is sort of a neo-synth 3D action platformer that I thought looked really, really cool. You could do sort of different transformations to your character to make them more powerful, and I really like the aesthetic of the game. I really like the layout, and I really enjoyed the music that they had in this trailer for the game. I thought it was very cool. I'm a big fan of neo-synth music, so I was right at home with this, and I thought the gameplay looked really fun and refined. I definitely want to see a bit more. I want to see if there's, you know, area advancements and different deviances in the areas that you're going into, because most of the areas that they showed in this game were pretty much the same sort of aesthetic. I want to see if there's more variety in that, but it definitely has a lot of promise, and considering that Double Fine usually makes high quality games and Bandai Namco is actually publishing this game, it obviously has some sort of high pedigree to it. It definitely looks very good, has a very clean aesthetic, and the gameplay looks pretty fun as well. It looks like there's going to be a lot of different things you can do. So Rad is definitely on my radar. I think it's a really cool looking game, and I can't wait to get more information about it. One thing that always bothers me about these Nindie Directs is they never really seem to show off many 3D games, and there's a lot of 3D games that come out on the Nintendo Switch via the eShop. Well, when they showed Rad, I was very excited, but when they showed Pine, I was absolutely ecstatic. Pine looks a lot like a Legend of Zelda game to me. It obviously has some inspiration from Ocarina of Time, but it also has inspiration from Breath of the Wild and how you have to survive. You're basically going in this open world adventure that's done in 3D. You're riding horses, you're crafting things, you're going going on this big adventure, taking out different types of enemies. This game just looked very, very impressive to me. It looked very high quality, and everything about it just screamed a Legend of Zelda style game. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. If you're taking inspiration from one of the most popular franchises, we've seen a lot of 2D style Zelda games that have come out, the top-down Super Nintendo style, but we haven't really seen a company try a 3D style of Zelda game. So if this is the future of Zelda clones, I'm very excited for this. I think Pine has a lot of potential. I think the game looks really good, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more information on it. So Pine, definitely one of my favorite games from this presentation. And then completely out of nowhere, we had Inti Creates come out with Blaster Master Zero 2, a sequel to Blaster Master Zero, which was a launch window title for the Nintendo Switch eShop. An absolutely fantastic game, a reimagining of the first Blaster Master game on the NES, and Blaster Master Zero 2 added in a lot more stuff. They added in more abilities, they added in more combat moves that you can do. It just looks like a real good advancement of the game. They actually added in some new graphical styles into the game as well. And the cool thing about this is it's out today, so obviously, after I'm done with this video, I will be downloading Blaster Master Zero 2. I absolutely love Blaster Master Zero on the Switch when it first came out. Just a fantastic game. Inti Creates does such high quality work with all of their games, so I'm sure Blaster Master Zero 2 is another fantastic game. We also saw Stranger Things 3 get confirmed for the Nintendo Switch, which will be launching right alongside of Stranger Things Season 3 on Netflix. Honestly, I wasn't a huge fan of Stranger Things when I first saw it, but the more I watched the series and watching the first 2 seasons, I absolutely fell in love with it. Obviously, a lot of references to 80s nostalgia and things like that. Really well written story. I'm really interested to see where they take Season 3, and the fact that this is launching right alongside of it, sort of as a complimentary thing, is really cool in my opinion. And then the last game they showed was this interesting top-down looking game that reminded me a lot of Link to the Past. And I'm looking at the game, I'm like, wow, this looks like a lot like a Link to the Past. And then they started playing some very Zelda-esque music, and then they actually started playing Zelda music, and I was like, well, this is an interesting homage. And then they showed Link and Zelda in this 2D top-down game, and I was like, what the hell is this? And this is Candace of Hyrule. Now, I don't know anything about this series. I don't know if this is a long-running series. They said something about a previous game that was included in this, so I don't know if this is maybe big on Steam or something like that, but Link and Zelda are going to be in an indie game that is coming out on the Nintendo Switch that's a top-down Legend of Zelda, a Link to the Past style game. And I was just blown away by this. I was not expecting something like this to happen. The game looks really awesome, and I can't wait for more information on it. But obviously the big news they started off with this was Cuphead is coming to the Nintendo Switch, and this really just says a lot about what is going on. We, of course, about a week or two ago talked on the channel about how Xbox One games were potentially coming to the Nintendo Switch. A lot of people felt like I was misinformed about that and it would not be happening, but today we got the first instance of it actually happening. Cuphead is coming to the Nintendo Switch in April, and it's going to be the full Cuphead experience. It is the game being brought over to the Nintendo Switch, and this really opens up the floodgates for this Microsoft and Nintendo partnership. There's a lot of rumors circulating about things like Xbox Live potentially coming to the Nintendo Switch as well. Nobody really knows quite for sure, but obviously there is a big partnership going on with Nintendo and Microsoft right now to have this game, Cuphead, which was a console exclusive for the Xbox One, coming to the Nintendo Switch. I think the future is going to be very interesting between these two companies. I'm not holding off on anything. You know, there's potentially game streaming and things like Game Pass coming to the Nintendo Switch via Microsoft as well. I think this partnership is really going to blossom, and the fact that they showed off Cuphead as coming to the Nintendo Switch, completely confirming that Xbox One games are coming to the Switch, is just really very interesting for the future of both Xbox and Nintendo. But all in all, I was really impressed with this Nindies presentation. Like I said at the start, a lot of times I feel like they focus too much on 2D platformers and puzzle games, which are fine genres, but I want to see more. I want to see different types of games, and Nintendo really delivered. Whether you're talking about big surprise announcements like Cuphead coming to the Nintendo Switch, or Blaster Master Zero 2, or these cool 3D action-adventure games like Rad and Pine. Pine is going to be a hit, folks. I'm going to go ahead and hop on the Pine bandwagon and start this bandwagon. Hashtag Pine in what we do on Twitter, because honestly I think this game is going to be awesome. Definitely limited run games needs to be looking at this, because a lot of people are going to want a physical release. But all in all, just a fantastic presentation with surprises and a great game variety. So let me know in the comments section down below what you thought of the Nindies Spotlight. What games really stuck out to you, and what games are going to be on your radar? And as always, thank you guys for checking out this video. I also want to know what you feel about Cuphead finally coming to the Nintendo Switch. What other Microsoft games do you think will end up on the Nintendo Switch? There's been lots lots of rumors, and I think we're gonna finally start seeing that. We just hit 195,000 subscribers on this channel. Thank you guys so much. We're on that road to 200K, so make sure you tell your friends about me because I'm really not that bad of a guy, right? And as always, I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.